The inner ear. The spiral organ of Corti has epithelium composed of hair cells and supporting cells. Hair cells have long, stiff microvilli graded from short to tall called stereocilia on apical surface. Gelatinous tectorial membrane rests on top of the stereocilia. Base of cells rest on the basilar membrane, and their axons lead away from the cochlea and the cochlear nerve. Excitation of the cochlear hair cells, mechanoreceptors. Vibration of ossicles causes vibrations of basilar membrane at a specific location according to the frequency of the sound under cells, as often as 20,000 times per second. Hair cells move up and down with the basilar membrane. Each upward movement pushes hair cells towards the tectorial membrane and causes the stereocilia to bend, which opens a mechanically gated ion channel. Potassium flows into the cell and it's depolarized. Generates an action potential in the cochlear nerve, a branch of the vestibular cochlear nerve, which runs from the organ of the corti to the brain. Homeostatic imbalances of hearing. Deafness is hearing loss. Conductive deafness. Conditions interfere with transmission of vibrations to the ear. Damaged tympanic membrane, blockage of the auditory canal. Otitis media, middle ear infection due to sore throats or infection of the throat that traveled up through the auditory tube. Otosclerosis, fusion of the auditory ossicles that prevent their free vibration. Sensorineural nerve deafness, death of hair cells or any nervous system elements concerned with hearing. Factory workers, musicians, construction workers have that problem. Tinnitus, ringing or clicking sounds in the ears, is in the absence of the auditory stimuli due to the cochlear nerve degeneration. Side effects of aspirin, inflammation of the middle or inner ear. Murray syndrome, disorder that affects the cochlea and semicircular canals, causes vertigo, nausea, and vomiting. Sensory fibers begin at the base of hair cells, continue via spiral ganglion hair cell bodies. Axons become the cochlear nerve, which joins with the vestibular nerve to form the vestibular cochlear nerve, which ends at the cochlear nuclei in the medulla. Each ear sends nerve fibers to both sides of the pons, superior ovary nucleus. Binaural hearing, comparing signals from the right and left ears to identify the direction from which the sound is coming. Then the fibers ascend to the inferior collicule of the membrane. Helps to locate the origin of the sound, processes fluctuation in the pitch, and mediates the startle response and rapid head turning in the response to loud noises, the auditory reflex center. Finally, via the thalamus, impulses pass the primary auditory cortex located in the temporal lobe, site of conscious perception of sound. Because of extensive desiccation of the auditory pathway, damage to right or left auditory cortex does not cause unilateral loss of hearing. Equilibrium. The coordination, balance, and orientation in three-dimensional spaces. Vestibular apparatus contains mechanoreceptors for equilibrium in the semicircular canals and vestibule. There's 3 semicircular ducts detect only angular acceleration, rotational equilibrium. The vestibule has 2 membranous sacs located in the inner ear, anterior saccule and posterior utricle. responsible for static equilibrium and linear acceleration, so gravitational equilibrium. Static equilibrium is the perception of the orientation of the head when the body is stationary. Dynamic equilibrium, perception of motion or acceleration. Linear acceleration, change in velocity in a straight line, so like an elevator, along with vertical or horizontal planes. Angular acceleration, change in the rate of rotate, so when a car turns a corner. The saccule and the utricle. The macula, a 2 by 3 millimeter patch of hair cells and supporting cells in the saccule and utricle. Each hair cell has 40 to 70 sterocilia and one true cilium. Kinocilium embedded in the gelatinous otolytic membrane. Macula of saccule, static membrane, static equilibrium. When head is tilted, heavy otolytic membrane sags, bending the sterocilia and stimulating the hair molecules. Macula of utricle, dynamic equilibrium. In car, linear acceleration detects the osteols lagging behind, bending the sterocilia and stimulating the hair cells. The semicircular ducts, rotary movements, dynamic angular acceleration detected by the three semicircular ducts. Bony semicircular canals of the temporal bone holds membranous semicircular ducts. Each duct is filled with an endolymph and opens up as a dilated sac, an ampulla, next to the utricle. Each ampulla contains cisterna ampullaris, mound of hair cells and supporting cells. Consists of hair cells with the sterocilia and the kinocilium buried in a mound of gelatinous membrane called the cupula, one in each duct. As head turns, the endolymph lags behind, pushes the capula, stimulates the hair cells. Orientation causes ducts to be stimulated by rotation in different planes. The equilibrium pathways. Hair cells of the macula sacculi, the macula utriculi, and the semicircular duct synapse on the vestibular nerve. Fibers end in the complex of 4 vestibular nuclei on each side of the pons and medulla. Process signals about the position and movement of the body relay information to 5 target areas. The cerebellum, which integrates the vestibular information into the controls of the head and eye movements, muscle tone and posture. The nuclei, the oculomotor, trochlear, and abducens nerves, to produce the vestibulo-ocular reflex, keeps vision fixed on a distant object while walking. The reticular formation, thought to adjust blood circulation and breathing to postural changes. Spinal cord, descend through 2 vestibulospinal tracts of spinal cord and innervated extensor anti-gravity muscles. The thalamus, thalamic relay to the cerebral cortex for awareness of position and motor control of the head and body. Motion sickness, mismatch of sensory input. Vision is sight. Perception of objects in the environment by means of the light that they emit or reflect. 70% of all sensory receptors are in the eye. Nearly half of the cerebral cortex is involved in the processing visual information. Most of the eye is protected by a cushion of fat and the bony orbit. Light. Visual electromagnetic radiation. Human vision, limited to wavelengths of light from 400 to 700 nanometers, equals white light. Ultraviolet radiation is less than 400 nanometers, has too much light and destroys the macromolecules. Infrared radiation is more than 750 nanometers. Too little energy to cause photochemical reaction, but warms the tissues. Light must cause a photochemical reaction to produce a nerve signal.